I never thought revenge could taste like charred oak and distant sirens. But there I was, perched on my porch swing across the cul-de-sac, nursing a tumbler of bourbon as the first wisps of smoke curled from Karen's perfect bay windows. She'd fired me that very morning, her manicured nail jabbing the air like a dagger, calling me a lazy leech who'd been dragging her precious startup into the gutter, all while the board nodded like bobbleheads at a car show. What she didn't know, what no one did, was that I'd spent the last 6 months wiring her empire with digital tripwires. And tonight, I'd pulled the first pin, a single, anonymous email tipping off the IRS about her offshore slush fund. But that was just the appetizer. The main course? A faulty space heater in her home office, accidentally left plugged in by the cleaning crew I'd bribed. Flames that would eat her world alive while she screamed about parking etiquette. It started with a scream that could shatter glass. Not from the fire, no. That came later, but from Karen herself. Her voice slicing through the humid July evening like a chainsaw through butter. You think you could just park that monstrosity here? This is my driveway. You redneck volunteer wannabes. I leaned forward in my Adirondack chair, the wood creaking under me like old bones, and watched as her black Escalade screeched to a halt sideways across the mouth of our gated community street. The Firetruck, big, gleaming, all chrome and urgency, loomed behind it, lights flashing like a disco from hell, sirens whooping in protest. The driver, a burly guy named Hank from the local station, leaned out his window, his mustache twitching with barely contained fury. "Ma'am, this is an emergency. Move your vehicle now. Or we'll have to. Or you'll what? Find me? Arrest me?" Karen's laugh was pure venom, the kind that dripped from her red-lipped snarl as she stepped out in her Louboutins, arms crossed over her silk blouse like she was posing for a Fortune 500 cover shoot. She was every inch the CEO stereotype, mid-40s, sharp bob haircut, dyed the color of expensive Merlot, eyes narrowed behind designer frames that screamed, "I sue for fun." But underneath, a viper who'd clawed her way up from a cramped Queens apartment to this McMansion suburb in Bethesda, Maryland, leaving a trail of broken interns and betrayed partners in her wake. Me included. I'd been her executive assistant for 3 years, fetching her oat milk lattes, scheduling her Botox touch-ups, and pretending not to notice the way she'd accidentally brush against the married VCs during funding rounds. Until last Tuesday, when she caught wind of my side gig, quietly documenting her every shady deal. From fudged expense reports to that time she borrowed a junior dev's code for her pitch deck. "You're fired," she'd hissed in the glass-walled conference room, her voice echoing off the ping-pong table we never used. "And if you breathe a word, I'll bury you in NDAs so deep you'll need a shovel." The board had clapped, actual applause, like she was Steve Jobs reincarnated. I walked out with a cardboard box of my succulents and a severance check that bounced twice before clearing. But betrayal? That was personal. Karen wasn't just my boss. She'd been my mentor, or so I thought. Fresh out of Georgetown with an MBA and stars in my eyes, I'd idolized her, the Asian American powerhouse who'd shattered glass ceilings at a tech firm poaching algorithms from open-source repos. We'd bonded over late-night dim sum runs. Her stories of immigrant parents pushing her to be twice as good, my own tales of scraping by on scholarships. Until I saw the real her, poaching my ideas for her TEDx talk, then ghosting me when the applause died. Firing me was the cherry on top, a public humiliation that left me couch surfing in Silver Spring, job hunting while rage simmered like bad takeout. Now, here she was, playing traffic cop to a goddamn firetruck. The neighborhood, our slice of American dream, gone glossy, with Teslas in every garage and Ring doorbells spying on barbecues, had ground to a halt. "Mrs. Patel from next door peeked through her shears, phone already dialing 911 for a noise complaint. Little Timmy Jenkins on his scooter froze mid-loop, eyes wide as Karen escalated. Do you know who I am? I'm Karen Leong, CEO of NextGen Analytics. I own half this block's property taxes. You touch my car, and my lawyers will own your pension. Hank's face turned the color of his truck's paint. Lady, there's a fire. People could die. He gestured wildly toward the plume now visible above Karen's roofline. But she waved it off like a pesky fly. Probably some idiot grilling without a permit. Not my problem. Move it, or I'll call your chief myself. The firefighters piled out, 6 of them, helmets glinting under the street lamps, attempting to reason, then plead, then threaten with a tow truck. Karen didn't budge. She whipped out her phone, live streaming the outrage to her 50K LinkedIn followers when entitled public servants harass working women. Karen's strong entrepreneur life. Comments flooded in, half cheering her on, half calling her a Karen in the pejorative sense. That viral archetype of white suburban entitlement, but twisted here into something sharper, more culturally loaded. An Asian woman weaponizing the trope against blue-collar heroes? The internet would eat it up, spit it out in think pieces by morning. I couldn't help it. A chuckle escaped me, low and bitter, as I swirled my bourbon. The ice clinked like tiny handcuffs. See, I'd known about the fire since noon. That faulty space heater? My doing? Indirectly. After the firing, I'd hacked her smart home system. Child's play with the temp password she'd bragged about in a team email. A quick firmware tweak. And boom, overheating circuits in her office, where she'd stashed those incriminating ledgers. Not enough to kill anyone. Her nanny and kid were at soccer practice, but enough to torch her ego, her files, her facade. And me? I'd tipped off the fire department anonymously about a suspicious smell at her address. Poetic, right? The woman who'd burned me now burning herself. As the argument devolved into shouts, Karen dialing her attorney, Hank radioing for backup, the flames gained traction. Orange tongues flicked at the second-story siding, painting the vinyl a hellish glow. A neighbor, old Mr. Gallagher, shuffled out in his robe, yelling, Karen, your house. It's your house. She spun, finally registering the smoke wafting toward her like an unwanted guest. What? No, that's impossible. I just left. The realization hit her like a slap. Her eyes bulged, phone slipping from her grip as she bolted toward the Escalade. Move! Move the truck, oh God. My contracts. My award wall. But the firefighters were already shoving her vehicle aside with practiced brute force. The Escalade scraping sparks on asphalt as the pumper roared forward. Hoses uncoiled like serpents. Water arcing in pressurized jets that hammered the roof. Karen clawed at the air, mascara running in black rivulets down her cheeks. Stop. You'll ruin the landscaping. That's imported Japanese maple. It was chaos distilled, sirens wailing, water flooding the gutters, sparks dancing like fireflies on steroids. I stayed put, heart pounding not with guilt, but vindication. This was for every overtime hour she'd docked me. Every, you're like family, lie that masked the exploitation. For the intern she'd blackballed after he dared question her flexible ethics. For the way she'd smile at board meetings. All poise and power, then eviscerate us in private. The controversy was brewing already, neighbors filming, posting to Nextdoor, CEO blocks first responders, her own house burns. By midnight, it'd be trending. Hashtags like entitled CEO and Fire Karen exploding across Twitter, pitting her ambition against basic human decency. But the real kicker? As the truck finally doused the blaze, saving the structure but gutting the interior, cops rolled up. Not just any beat cops, but fire marshals with badges gleaming like Judgment Day. Karen, drenched and disheveled, rounded on them. This is harassment. I demand an apology. One officer, a no-nonsense Latina with a ponytail tight as her patients. Cuffed her wrists while reading rights. Mom, obstructing emergency services is a felony. You delayed response by 7 minutes. Could have cost lives. Her protests devolved into sobs. Then shrieks. Do you know how this looks? My brand ruined. I raised my glass to the stars. The bourbon burning sweet. Revenge wasn't a dish best served cold. It was this, warm, flickering, and utterly consuming. The cuffs clicked shut with a finality that echoed louder than the dying crackle of embers. And for a split second, the street went silent, neighbors holding their breath, phone still rolling, capturing Karen Liang's unraveling in 4K glory. She twisted in the marshal's grip, her blouse clinging transparently to her bra, dignity pooling at her feet like the runoff from the hoses. This is a mistake. Call my lawyer now. But the officer just steered her toward the squad car, her heels skidding on wet pavement, leaving twin skid marks like accusations. I watched from my shadowed porch, the bourbon now a dull warmth in my veins, wondering if this was catharsis or just the first crack in my own facade. By the time they loaded her in, back seat, doors slamming like a guillotine, the circus had fully assembled. News van screeched up, anchors with perfect hair, thrusting mics like spears. MS. Liang, what prompted you to block the Firetruck? Sources say it was your own home on fire. Any comment? Karen's face, pressed against the window glass, was a mask of fury and fragility, lips moving in silent curses, eyes darting for an escape that wasn't there. The headlines wrote themselves, tech titan torched by entitlement, CEO arrested after blocking her own rescue. It was the kind of story that fed the beast, America's endless appetite for schadenfreude, especially when it starred a woman who'd clawed to the top only to trip spectacularly. Me? I slipped inside before the spotlights could swing my way, locking the door against the frenzy. My rental, a modest split level with peeling paint and a fridge humming like a judgmental auntie, was a far cry from Karen's palace of excess. But tonight, it felt like a fortress. I poured another finger of bourbon, sank into the sagging couch, and pulled up my laptop. The hack was still live, her servers, mirroring the inferno across the street, were hemorrhaging data. I'd set it to drip feed, first to whistleblower sites, then journalists hungry for scoops. By dawn, her slush fund would be front-page Bloomberg. Her plagiarized pitch decks dissected on Reddit's r/anti-work. Sleep evaded me, chased off by replays in my head. Not the fire, but the build-up, the slow poison of working for her. It started innocently enough. That first day at NextGen, Karen had swept into the bullpen like a typhoon in stilettos, clapping her hands for attention. Team, we're not just building software, we're building empires. And empires demand loyalty, absolute, unwavering, inudayajali, 28 and green, fresh off a thesis on ethical AI. She plucked me from the pack, made me her shadow. You're sharp, Alex, like the little brother I never had. Dim sum at 2 a.m., her chopsticks dancing as she dissected competitors. They call it cutthroat. But honey, it's survival. Us immigrants, we fight twice as hard. Us. That word hooked me deep. My folks had fled Vietnam in '75, raised me on fish sauce and bootstrap myths in a Philly row house. Karen's parents, fresh from Fujian, slinging takeout in Flushing, mirrored that grind. We'd swap stories, her acing Harvard on spite, me dodging gang tags in high school. But the cracks showed early. The first idea she borrowed, my algorithm for predictive analytics, rebranded as hers in a demo. Great minds. Alex, she'd wink, slapping my back. I swallowed it, chalking it up to mentorship. Then came the firings. Not mine. Not yet, the canaries in her coal mine. But I, the dev who'd unionized the coders, disloyal, she spat. HR is escorting him out mid-sentence. Elena, the marketer pregnant with twins, can't commit, as if morning sickness was a character flaw. I documented it all. A digital diary in encrypted drives, emails, recordings, timestamps. Paranoia? Maybe. But when she started eyeing my notes, what's this? Alex? Side project. I knew the blade was sharpening. The betrayal peaked at the all-hands last month. Karen on stage. Projector humming. Unveiling her vision. Real-time bias detection in hiring software. My vision. Pitched in a one-on-one 6 months prior. The room erupted. Investors wired millions on the spot. Backstage. She hugged me, sweat slick. Triumphant. We did it. Kid. We. But the next day, my inbox, performance review, riddled with opportunities for growth. By Tuesday, the axe, fired in front of the board, her voice a scalpel. Alex has been distracted, leeching off the team's momentum. Leeching. The word stung like salt in a fresh wound. I packed my desk, photos of Mosfo shop. That frame posted from Karen reading Empire Builders Unite, and left without a word. Outside, rain slicked the streets, mirroring the tears I refused to shed. That's when the plan crystallized. Not violence. Not lawsuits, too messy, too American dream adjacent. No, I dismantle her from the code up. Hack the home, seed the leaks, watch her code unravel. Across the street, the fire marshal's tape fluttered in the breeze. Yellow caution, screaming neglect. By 3 a.m., my feed was ablaze. TikTok's remixing Karen's livestream with clown filters. Podcasts dissecting the Karen complex in corporate Asia. Feminists decried the trope's racial undertones. Why pin entitlement on an Asian woman when white Karens roamed free, while conservatives crowed about woke hypocrisy? Controversy. Thy name is viral. I dozed fitfully, dreaming of her boardroom, throne crumbling to ash. Morning broke sticky and accusatory. Sunlight glinting off the sooty remnants of Karen's facade. I brewed coffee black, no frills, and stepped onto the porch. The street was a graveyard of gawkers, joggers and Lululemon pausing for selfies. A Channel 9 crew packing up. Her house stood defiant. Windows blackened like bruised eyes. Roof sagging under water weight. No sign of her return. Bail hearings waited for no CEO. My phone buzzed, a text from an old colleague. Mia. Dude, you see the news? Karen's toast. IRS raided the office. Cops hauling servers like it's Black Friday. I smirked, typing back. Karma's a glitch. But inside, a twinge, not regret, but the hollow echo of what-ifs. What if she'd mentored without the malice? What if I'd spoken up sooner? Revenge felt righteous in the abstract. But up close, it was just another layer of soot. The day dragged. A montage of mundane, laced with malice. I updated my resume. Applied to 3 gigs in ethical tech, irony noted. Lunch was ramen from the corner bodega. Slurped over Substack essays on corporate toxicity. By afternoon, Karen's face dominated my feeds. Mugshot leaked. Lips pursed in perpetual scowl. Arrested on felony charges, the post blared. Obstruction. Plus, pending fraud probes. Her LinkedIn? Frozen in time. A shrine to hubris. Disrupting the disruptors. Boss babe. Then, the call I half expected. Unknown number. Bethesda, area code. I let it ring twice before answering. Voice steady as rebar. Alex, it's me. Karen's tone. Stripped of bark, small, smoke-scarred. I need your help. They think I started the fire, insurance fraud, or some bullshit. But you know the system. Please. I leaned against the kitchen counter, staring at the coffee rings like tea leaves. Help. After the leech speech? The borrowed dreams? Karen, I said, slow as molasses. You fired me. Call me worthless. Now you want loyalty. Silence. Then a hitch. Was that a sob? I was wrong. Stressed. The board. They push me. Come on. For old times. Dim sum. The offer hung. Bait on a hook. Part of me, the kid from Philly, still craving approval, wavered. But the man I'd become, he saw the trap, her spinning this into redemption. Me as the loyal sidekick in her comeback tale. No, it'll be the word a guillotine drop. Handle your own fire. Karen, you got the lawyers for it. I hung up, blocked the number, and poured a fresh bourbon. Outside, a delivery truck rumbled, her Amazon empire. Undeterred. But empires fall, one obstructed truck at a time. The fallout hit like a Category 5. By evening, Karen's empire wasn't just smoldering. It was a 5-alarm inferno of subpoenas and screenshots. I scrolled through it all from my laptop. The screen's glow casting long shadows in my dim living room, turning the walls into a funhouse mirror of her downfall. Investors pulling out faster than rats from a sinker. $20 million yanked by close of market. Employees posting exit interviews on Glassdoor. Toxic queen bee. Glad she's dethroned. Even her alma mater, Wharton, issued a mealy-mouthed statement distancing themselves. We celebrate ethical leadership. I should have felt triumphant. But instead, there was this undercurrent of nausea, like swallowing regret with my whiskey chaser. Was I any better? Hacking her life. Tipping the dominoes. Vigilante justice, or just another cog in the revenge cycle. Ma would have smacked me upside the head. Alex, grudges poison the soul. Go on. But grudges built character in our house. They were the grit in the oyster. Night 2 brought the protesters. Ironic, given Karen's politics. A ragtag crew of gig workers and ex-staffers gathered at the cul-de-sac's edge. Signs bobbing like buoys, Karen's out of tech, and entitlement burns hotter than code. They chanted softly at first, then louder. Drums thumping from a Bluetooth speaker. Some indie protest playlist with Rage Against the Machine covers. I joined them uninvited. Hands in pockets, blending into the khakis and hoodies. Mia spotted me, elbowing through with a thermos of spiked hot chocolate. You hear? She's out on bail. Posted it with a Rolex. But the board? They're voting her out tomorrow. We huddle by the tape. Steam rising from our cups like ghosts. Mia, with her purple streaked hair and nose ring, was the dev who'd survived Karen's first purge. She cornered me once, said I'd never amount to shit without her guidance. Now look, she jerked her chin at the house, where yellow caution lights pulsed like a migraine. The protesters swelled. Neighbors I nodded to at block parties, now radicalized by the spectacle. A viral petition circled. Recall Karen Leong from Community Board. Her sin? Not just the Firetruck, but years of HOA tyranny, finding folks for untrimmed hedges, blocking playground upgrades because it lowers property values. As the chant peaked, no more Karens, no more fears. Headlights pierced the gloom. A sleek Audi purred up, disgorging Karen an athleisure that screamed casual power play. Yoga pants hugging her like a second skin. Ponytail swinging like a pendulum. Flanked by 2 suits, her lawyers. No doubt, she marched toward the tape. Chin high, ignoring the jeers. This is private property. Disperse, or I'll have you all cited for trespassing. The crowd surged. Phones out, capturing the rematch. A young barista type thrust her sign forward. You blocked heroes. Now block this. Karen snatched it, crumpling it like yesterday's stock ticker. You entitled brats wouldn't have jobs without people like me. I built this neighborhood. Built it on the backs of underpaid contractors. I thought, but bit my tongue. Mia whispered. Petty AF, as Karen's voice cracked into a tirade. Immigrants like us don't whine. We win. You think this mob justice scares me? Ives sud bigger. The irony landed like a gut punch. Immigrants like us. There was her ultimate weapon, the shared struggle, twisted into a shield. The crowd faltered, murmurs rippling some nodding, others scoffing. An older black woman, Mrs. Ellis from the book club, stepped forward. Honey, struggle don't give you a pass to act the fool. You almost cost lives. Karen whirled. Finger jabbing. Mind your lane. Gladys. This ain't your fight. It escalated fast, shoves, shouts. A water bottle sailing through the air to splash Karen's Nikes. Cops materialized, batons out, herding the mess into uneasy peace. I hung back, pulse thundering, as she locked eyes with me across the fray. Recognition flashed, cold, calculating. Alex, she mouthed, or maybe hissed. No plea this time, just promise of payback. By midnight, the protesters dispersed, leaving confetti of torn flyers in the gutters. I walked home buzzed on adrenaline and cheap cocoa, the night's energy clinging like static. Inside, another leak dropped. Her emails, redacted just enough to damn. One gem to a VC, Alex's idea. But I'll take credit, diversity higher optics. The internet detonated. Cancel Karen trending worldwide. Late-night hosts scripting monologues. Sleep came in fits, haunted by her face, not the snarling CO, but the vulnerable mentor from dim sum nights. I soft over scallion pancakes. We're warriors. Alex, don't let them break you. Had I broken her? Or just exposed the fractures? Day 3 dawned with warrants. I woke to helicopters chopping overhead. SWAT types swarming NextGen's glassy HQ across town. Coffee in hand, I tuned into the live feed. Feds and windbreakers. Sealing doors. Karen's Maserati towed from the lot. Her statement. Via proxy, this is a witch hunt. I'll fight with everything I've got. Fight. The word echoed. A challenge. My own fight. A job offer pinged. Ethical consulting and nonprofit. Salary modest, but soul-affirming. I accepted, fingers trembling on the keys. But before signing, a knock rattled my door. Peering through the peephole, Karen, alone, no lawyers. Makeup caked over fatigue lines. A trench coat draped like defeat. Let me in, she said through the wood. Voice muffled but insistent. Against better judgment, I did. She breezed past, scent of Chanel and char trailing her, collapsing onto my couch like she owned it. They took everything. Servers, files, my life's work. No filo, no apology, straight to the pitch. You did this, didn't you? The hack, the tip. I can smell it. I crossed arms, leaning against the fridge. Prove it, she laughed. Hello. I don't need to. We're the same, you and me. Betrayed by the system. Striking back. Help me rebuild. 50-50 partners. Empire 2.0. The offer dangled. Seductive in its familiarity. Power. Validation. Dim sum redux. But her eyes, predatory still, betrayed the con. Karen, I said. Voice steel. You don't build with people. You burn them. I handed her a USB, my full dossier. Unredacted. Use it. Or don't. But I'm out. She stared. Then stood. Coat swirling. You'll regret this. Door schlemmed. Silence rushed in. I exhaled. The weight lifting like smoke. Epilogues aren't tidy in real life. They're jagged. Laced with loose ends and what-if echoes. But Karen's? It unspooled like a bad sequel. All drama and diminishing returns. 2 weeks post-arrest. Her trial prep leaked via a disgruntled paralegal. Obstruction felony. Pluie fraud. Money laundering. The works. Bail revoked after she accidentally tampered with a witness. Reed. Bribed an ex-employee with stock options. Federal lockup in Virginia. Orange jumpsuit clashing with her bob. Mugshots circulating like trading cards. I followed from afar. My new gig at the nonprofit a bomb. Auditing AI for bias. No backstabbing required. Mornings now meant yoga in Rock Creek Park. Not caffeine IVs. Evenings? Craft beers with Mia and the crew. Dissecting the saga over wings. You were the ghost in the machine, she'd tease. Clinking bottles. I'd shrug, just calm as a sadman, but inside, the bourbon ghosts lingered, whispering doubts. The neighborhood healed unevenly. Karen's McMansion sold at auction, fire sale. Literally, to a quiet family from Colombia who painted the siding sage green and planted community gardens where her awards wall once loomed. The HOA dissolved in scandal. We voted in a co-op model. Playground installed by fall. Protesters morphed into a local advocacy group. Fire the Karens, pushing for emergency access reforms. Me, I testified anonymously at a city hearing. Voice modulated over Zoom. Entitlement delays justice. Don't let it burn us all. But the bitter twist? Karen's Phoenix Act. From jail. She penned a Medium post, smuggled via lawyer. Of course, from ashes to advocacy. How rock bottom forged my empathy. Victim narrative dialed to 11. Systemic racism. Boardroom sexism. A moment of weakness amplified by mob rule. Comments split the timeline, half hailing her growth, half roasting the gall. TEDx invite followed. She keynote virtually 6 months in. Chains metaphorically clanking. I was the Karen, now I'm the change. It rankled. That redemption arc. I'd handed her the dossier, fuel for her fire, and she'd spun it into gold. My leaks, credited obliquely as internal concerns, erasing my hand. Mia called it classic Karen, turned poison into perfume. I nodded, but the grudge festered. A low simmer. Was justice the arrest? Or the erasure after? One gray November afternoon. Parcel arrived. No sender. Brown paper crisp. Inside, a scorched photo. Our dim-sum crew. Me and Karen midlaugh. Edges curl black. Back scrawled in her script. Warriors endure. Round 2. K. Chills spider my spine. She'd weaseled an early release. Plea deal. Community service. Empire 2.0 brewing in some halfway house startup incubator. I burned the photo in my sink. Blue flame devouring the past. No round 2. I log off that server. Build my own code, clean, uncompromised. But as smoke curled toward the vent, I wondered, in America's grind, do we ever escape the blaze? Or do we just learn to fan the flame smarter? Months blurred into a tentative normalcy. Holiday lights twinkled across the cul-de-sac. The Colombian family's mariachi playlist drifting on wind. My folks visited, Ma fussing over my fancy nonprofit salary. Pa grilling ribs with stories of 75. Life's not grudges. Con, he said, flipping meat. It's the table you set. I set one that Christmas. Mia. Neighbors. Even Mr. Gallagher. Toasting to new builds. Karen? Last I heard, she'd pivoted to consulting, ghostwriting for aspiring CEOs. Her brand repackaged as battle-tested resilience. A podcast deal. Therapy speak buzzwords. No apology, no reckoning, just adaptation. Darwinian and unapologetic. The internet forgot. Fresh scandals eclipsed hers. But I didn't. Not fully. On New Year's, firework booms shook the windows, echoes of that July night. I stepped out, bourbon in hand, old habits. Watching sparks fade to black. Across the way, the sage house glowed warm, laughter spilling from open doors. My empire? Smaller. Sure, no McMansions, no viral takedowns, but solid, unburned. Revenge had its taste, ash and triumph, but absolution? That was the real hook, forgiving not her, but the kid who'd idolized the mask. I raised my glass to the stars, sirens distant now, and whispered, empire off, lights out, the end, in stories. Yes, in life. It's just intermission. But for tonight, the house stayed cool, the code clean, and the night, finally, quiet.